we are eclipsing another milestone on this podcast. Now, you're probably thinking, another milestone? Yes, we have now eclipsed another milestone just from this one guest. Now, granted, we've had a lot of guests, but this guest is taking up two milestones. Not really milestones, but more of he's taking the top prize for both. So we'll give it to him for this episode. But when we dive into this, just make sure you guys are paying attention to some of the things I'm saying. If not, you may miss it. So again, before we continue on, I just want to thank everybody for just, again, continuous support as well. Just what really drives me, just continues me to just do what I do. I love doing this. So I appreciate everybody doing that as well. I've been getting a lot of feedback as well. So that just continues to help me grow this podcast as well. And I would also like to announce that in our last episode with Jeff Schneider from Big Shots, I have now partnered with Big Shots. So you'll be seeing some content over the next few months, and especially next summer as well, with just me working with Big Shots working with me. It's more of a partnership and collaboration kind of thing. So I'm very thankful and excited for that opportunity that Jeff and his team has provided me. So I'm very thankful for that. But without further ado, let's dive into episode 64 of Hoops Across the Mountain State. I know it's 64 episodes. I'm getting old. My birthday was a few weeks ago. My back's starting to hurt. My knees hurt now. I'm starting to cramp up in my calf more. It sucks. I mean, my guest probably knows the same feeling as well, just because he plays at VMI and he knows how brutal it might be. I have no room to talk, by the way. He's got a harder job than I do. But without further ado, let's dive into this. And as always, I encourage everybody to follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7, and also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. Well, let's get right into it. My guest played high school basketball at Musselman. They made the state tournament in 2018, defeating Parkersburg South in the first round, and then eventually made it to the Final Four of the Class AAA 2018 state basketball tournament. He was named a 2017 first-team All-Conference in the Eastern Panhandle Athletic Conference, a 2017 All-Area team, and he was a 2017 third-team All-State member as well. And get this, as a junior, he averaged a double-double. He averaged 13 points and 10 rebounds and shot 36%. Now, this may come as a shock just from behind the arc. Now, he shot 36% from behind the arc, so we'll get into that. But when I tell you his height, you'll be like, that's the game nowadays. But anyway, he shot 77% as well from behind the arc as well. And he is now entering his fourth season with the VMI Cadets. And through 3 seasons already, he has played in 90 games and starting in 68 career games. And he's coming off his best year ever at VMI, averaging 15 points a game, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and he totaled 41 blocks as well. Now here's where the achievements come into play. So if you recall a few episodes back, Aiden Satterfield was the tallest player we've had. Then Warren Baker came along and all these other guys that were tall. Aiden 6'7", Warren Baker 6'7". We just had a ton of guys as well. But my guest today, if you guys know who he is, and you've seen his bio before, my guest is 6'11". Yeah, he's 6'11". So I'm 6'3", 6'4" as well. And I usually look eye to eye with people. I think if I were to talk to my guest one-on-one, I'd probably have to put my chin up some more. That way I could talk to him. Like I said, yeah, he's 6'11", and he's also the first guest that we've had from the Eastern Panhandle. So again, as this podcast continues to grow, I want to continue to branch out to different places within the state of West Virginia. We've hit Wheeling Central, we've hit George Washington. We're now reaching Musselman as well. So I'm going to try and go in all different lengths and reaches of the state as well. But without further ado, I am glad to introduce my guest for episode 64, Mr. Jake Stevens. Jake, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. That's quite the intro, man. I might need to take you on the road with me.
Dude,
I intro more places.
Be the hype man, sort of be like what they did for the '96 Bulls, where he just says, just does the entire starting lineup, get the music going, just get the steam going, that kind of thing. We can go high tech, Jake.
Nice.
We can go high tech. I mean, us tall guys, we gotta stick together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So okay, so as I said earlier, you're 6'11". Now, growing up, I've had numerous people walk up to me like, "How are you so tall?" You know, my mom used to tell them whenever I'd be with my mom, she'd say, "You know, I tried putting cinder blocks on his head. That didn't really do anything. I tried hanging off of his arm that way he could stop growing." I mean, did your parents ever just say, how did you get so tall? Or did they say we tried to like put like a cinder block on your head? Did they ever say anything to you like that?
Yeah, so if you know my parents, you know that neither of them is too tall. My dad's probably 6'2". And then I have two older brothers. They're each probably 6'4", 6'5" ish. So, I like to think I just got lucky. I'm not sure. I mean, 6'11" at this point, I'm hanging upside down, trying to stretch out every night, trying to get to 7 feet. I mean, my goodness, might as well. So,
Now, being 6'11", I would assume you would have to be very flexible for your position.
yeah, I mean, there's, that definitely comes into it. But for the most part, it's just, try to run high, low, get the ball, throw the ball high, keep the ball high, finish. It certainly helps, though. Certainly helps be tall.
Okay, so here's a kindergarten question. So as we both know, growing up, we have to do the standardized fitness test.
Okay.
And now I know, nightmares, I know. But my question is, can you still like whenever you're stretching, can you touch your toes still? Are you short?
Yeah, so if you know me, I got a pretty long wingspan. I think the last time I measured it was like 7 feet 8 inches or 7 feet 9 inches. Yeah, so
Oh my gosh.
it's up there. So touching my toes isn't too much of a problem. Although I'm not overly flexible. I think that just comes with the long arms. So
Dude, your wingspan is literally you plus like a toddler.
yeah, I know that's one thing that sticks out a lot. That comes into play with getting 41 blocks. Obviously, I like to tell coach per inch of vertical, I think because my vertical's so low, but I block so many shots, I like to think that ratio is pretty good. So
You've had 94 blocks for 3 seasons. I mean, that's
yeah,
that's something right there, dude.
yeah. I mean, like I said, don't have to leave the ground too much, but yeah, I get them either any way I can. So
So let me ask you this. So before we get into your Musselman stuff, I find this fascinating. Just still sticking with your height. Have you always been the tallest kid in your class?
yeah, I mean, growing up, I was always the tallest kid, but it's actually funny. I graduated Musselman. It was probably 6'7" or so. So I've probably grown a good 3 or 4 inches here at VMI. Went in, let's see, in the spring, was having my hand looked at, and he's like, "Man, still got your growth plates open here." So I don't know, man. We'll see. Maybe we can squeeze out the extra inch, and we'll see.
I was going to ask you, are you done growing? But you just answered my question.
Yeah. Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, dude. Holy cow, you're 6'11". How much more do you want to go?
Hey, I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Well, so let me ask you this: Who I know people sort of see the height obviously at an early age for you. Who were some people that influenced you to just play basketball and continue to pursue it as well? Because they saw your height and they just said you can work with it and continue to develop. Who were some people that influenced you early on?
I mean, obviously, my family members. I said I have two older brothers. Both played at Musselman. One plays at Shepherd University now. So obviously, I mean, we would just battle all the time. 21 in the driveway. Anytime, there's pretty much a door on every hoop in our house. I mean, Nerf basketball, outdoor basketball, anything we could. But yeah, more than anybody, probably my dad. He took me to my mom and my dad, but my dad was more my coach in this type of thing. They took me all over the East Coast to tournaments and making sure I got to practice. And yeah, so I mean, my family. I'm a family guy, so you'll probably figure that out as we go on. But yeah, those people were instrumental.
So walk me through this again. You're the first person I've talked with over in the Eastern Panhandle. You got teams like Martinsburg, obviously Musselman's out there as well. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of great teams out there. Growing up, what's basketball like over in the Eastern Panhandle for people that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, it's different, for sure. Sometimes it feels as if we didn't get as much coverage as the southern part of the state, and some years that was probably rightfully so. We've come around lately, but weren't always the powerhouse. But yeah, I mean, every game was a battle. Honestly, I mean, when I was watching my older brother play, he was about 4 years older than me. I mean, we had Martinsburg, who's always tough in almost every sport they have. Hedgesville won a state tournament in 2012 or something like that with QJ Peterson. Spring Mills is always a tough out. They're just a hard-nosed team. So yeah, I mean, all those teams every night we're in battles, and it was also good because our Coach Basil, he would schedule a bunch of in-state schools. So I mean, we got to travel too. So that eventually helped with the notoriety and recognition and stuff when we play in Morgantown, South Charleston. So it was cool though.
You mentioned your two brothers, and I always find the family aspect of this interesting because I have a younger brother as well. But since you're the youngest of three, what's that like for you having two older brothers that played basketball, that played at Musselman, one playing at Shepherd as well? What's that like having those two guys almost like as an anchor for you?
It was cool. I mean, I really got to, take bits and pieces from both of them, things that worked for them, things that didn't work for them. And then obviously I got to play with my middle brother, Cam, for 3 years. He was our point guard, and, it was cool just playing together and, just hooping. I mean, that's all there was to it. It weren't running any offense or really anything like that. It's just like, let's go get some buckets. I don't know, not much to it. But yeah, I mean, those guys really, guided me along the way. Anytime I had questions, needed workout advice or anything like that, they were definitely there for me. So it's always good to have two mentors that love you regardless.
Now, I would assume that either on a game day, game week, or whatever that is, you probably have a go-to meal, maybe a glass of water, maybe milk as well, because there's a myth that says, milk makes you grow. So I would assume you drank a lot of milk growing up.
I have drank a lot of milk. That's true. Pre-game in high school, I've gotten smarter since high school, but high school we used to all, like, most of the team and my grandpa would come down a lot. We'd all go to Waffle House before the game. Yeah. So we're eating waffles and eggs, and it's not the best choice, but it works. But now we've gotten a little smarter with the food choices. Now we're looking at pasta and chicken and all that good stuff. So
now you mentioned pasta. Now pasta to me is almost like the holy grail. I mean, steak is always going to have my heart, but pasta's right there. What kind of pasta do you like?
So I mean, we pretty much go regular spaghetti. But lately I've gone to the Alfredo. Alfredo's been pretty good, but it kind of sits heavy on my stomach before the game. So 4 games, you got to go just plain tomato sauce with some meatballs in there. So can't go wrong. Can't miss.
Now, who's the best cook? Do you cook? Do you cook at all?
I cook. So in the summer, for summer school down here, we have to, stay in our own place. So I cook up some basic, chicken and rice, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk more about this Musselman team and teams that you played with. So what's the Musselman culture like? I mean, I know people know about Martinsburg, like we mentioned. You mentioned Hedgesville winning the state title in 2012 as well. Spring Mills is up there. But just walk me through what the history and tradition is like over in Musselman.
Yeah. I mean, I think, me and my brothers kind of headed it off with, we get in the gym. So we're here to work hard. No one's giving us anything. For the longest time, we were, mentioned at the bottom of Martinsburg, Hedgesville, and there's Musselman over there too. So, our mentality was always to outwork everybody. We started lifting weights and things like that. That was kind of, new to everybody. So we started doing that. We started, doing conditioning and things along those lines. Taking advantage of I think when I was going to school, it was 3 weeks in the summer or something like that in June, when we could go to like camps and things like that with coach. So, I mean, the mentality was always, no one's going to give it to us. We got to go out there, take it, and outwork everybody. So I'd like to think that's what we instilled in the Musselman program.
Walk me through this. If you can recall back to your freshman year of high school, 2 things. How much did you weigh? And how tall were you going in the freshman year of high school?
Yeah, so we actually made the state tournament every year I was there. So it's on record somewhere in the program. But I'm pretty sure I was 6'3", and I want to say like 180. So yeah, I think that's about where I was my freshman year.
And now you're 6'11", 266 according to your biography at BMI. So that's quite elite, dude. I mean, again, that's why I had to ask about the food, because the food, the drink, especially the milk, you just said you love drinking milk.
Yep.
I guess those definitely helped, one bulk up and also adjust to the college scale as well. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, first couple years, like I had to still kind of figure some things out and let my body mature. But now it's kind of a well-oiled machine. Every off season, we're eating this, we're eating this, we're eating this, trying to put on weight, put on muscle. And then by the time this time of year comes around, we're starting to focus more on carbohydrates and obviously pushing the water every day. So yeah, it's just a plan to everything. It's a plan to everything.
We'll get to the VMI portion of your tenure here in a few minutes, but I still find your whole career with Musselman interesting, just because you mentioned how 4 straight state tournament appearances, you averaged a double as a junior, 13 all state. But let's talk about this. So you played with your brother for 3 years. Your senior year, you assumed the role as the leader, the quote unquote leader of the team. When you first
Right.
heard that, what sort of went through your head with that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a different transition for sure. Obviously, the first 3 years, I had my brother there to kind of lean on him. I'd like to think we took a little bit of a good cop, bad cop role. Him being the nicer guy, and me just always causing havoc. But no, you have to transition. You have to grow up, and there's young guys that need to be led. So that my senior year there, and that leadership prepared me for this year, which is along the same lines. We lost our point guard. He graduated, moved on, was a great leader for us, one of my better friends. So now this year, here we are again. I'm the senior, got to lead the young guys. So yeah, it was a good transition. And what happened in high school was the same thing. It helped me a lot. So
had you always seen yourself as a leader prior to your senior year?
Yeah, I was definitely maybe not the leader, but I was always vocal. I could always be heard. Sometimes probably to a fault, but yeah, for sure. I mean, I like to lead by example. So in high school, we had whoever worked the hardest in the off season could wear number 33 for the year. It's kind of an award Musselman has. So I wore that for 3 years. Didn't get it my freshman year, and then sophomore, junior, senior year was able to wear 33. So leading by example is something I believe in. So, and once again, tried to carry that over to VMI.
So I would assume as a big man, you have a plethora of former players, whether that be collegiate players or NBA players. You can just go on YouTube, watch their highlight reel. I mean, personally, I used to watch Hakeem Olajuwon. Who are
Yeah,
some
he's the
guys that
best.
think, oh, thank you. Thank you. That's all
Yeah,
I needed to know. Thank you. But anyway,
34. I wear 34 now, and there's a reason to it.
there's a reason to it. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
So okay, so here we go. So would you say that you tried to mimic your game after Hakeem, or were there any other guys? Walk me through that. I mean,
Yeah,
you're a tall, lengthy guy, so you have
yeah,
a lot of room to work with.
yeah. I mean, I kind of picture my game as a blank canvas. I try to take aspects from everybody. Been working on the dream shake a little bit this off season. Uh, obviously not as good as him, but hopefully see that in game here soon. I used to love watching Kevin Love outlet pass, and obviously he shoots the ball well. So I loved watching him. Now, obviously, Nikola Jokic is the perfect comparison to anybody that's a big, slow white guy. So obviously he fits me perfect. Yeah, I mean, Tim Duncan obviously was a assassin on the mid block there and short corner. So I just try to take a little bit from everybody. Definitely watch highlights and workouts from any big man that I could find. So yeah.
I think the one guy you forgot to leave out was Kareem, because I was going to ask you, have you tried to do the old sky hook? Have you tried
Oh
that
yeah.
before?
Oh yeah. I'm not sure if anybody will recognize the name, but Coach Ernie Nestor,
Okay.
good friends with Coach Basil. And we talk sometimes. He was telling me I need to work on my sky hook. So I put it in the game a little bit, but yeah, it's still in the workshop. It's still in the working phase.
Hey, as Bob Ross always says, we're just painting trees. Like you said, we're just putting trees onto a blank canvas.
That's right. That's right. We're just adding to it.
Multiple colors. I love to hear that. Okay, so walk me through this then. So everybody knows that West Virginia is very passionate when it comes to comes to fan bases for either it be WVU, Marshall, prep teams, regardless of any sport. Walk me through this. What's that fan base like over in Musselman? Because again, you mentioned how you guys did not get covered a lot through your 4 years at Musselman. But what are those fans like, and how helpful is that to have a fan base like that?
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun. I mean, a lot of our games are, within a few miles of each other. So, when we're playing at Martinsburg, our side of the crowd is sold out. We have student sections at most every game. I think people think of Musselman back in the 80s and stuff. We were like a football school. But now, made the state tournament. I think at the time it was like 5 straight years or something. So, yeah, I mean, the fans love to come out to the games, especially if it's like a crosstown rival, Hedgesville, any of those guys, any of the conference guys sells it, not sells out, but it's very packed. Just a great atmosphere every night, every single game.
You mentioned Martinsburg. Now, Martinsburg, for people that probably know, they've always hung around. You mentioned how they're always dominant in football and basketball because they still have Dave Rogers, who's been there for as long as I can remember. I mean, I'm only 22, so
yeah,
he's been there for as long as I've been alive, quite frankly. But okay, so what are those games like between the Bulldogs, the Appleman meet? What's that like?
Yeah, it's electric. I mean, it's funny though, they seem to always beat us at home, and we always seem to beat them at Martinsburg. So that was always an interesting aspect to kind of celebrate a little bit on the other team's home floor. But I mean, pretty much every single game was coming down to the wire. Wasn't much we could do either way, but it was going to come down to the last shot or last layup or something like that. So I mean, every single game was going to be a close game, and you knew that you were in there for the long haul, and that it was going to be a physical, tough game. So it was always fun to play in those games for sure.
So let's exclude the Eastern Panhandle and let's go more of a broader West Virginia scale. Because you mentioned you guys were able to travel some in high school, so I like that. So outside of the Eastern Panhandle, where are some of your favorite venues that you love playing at? You love just every time you go there, you just get goosebumps every time.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that come to my mind off the top of my head was the Fairmont Armory. It's just a cool place to play. We played in I think it was a Martin Luther King Day, like round robin or something up there. Played Morgantown. We also played in South Charleston at the what's it called down there? The Civic Center, the Rec Center, whatever it's called down there.
The Rec Center. Yep.
That place is just fun. I mean, just a lot of memories at all those places. And then probably one of my favorite games we played at Parkersburg. Had a kind of rivalry going there. We played each other a couple years in a row. Ended up winning on like a last second free throw or something like that. And that place is that's cool, man. It's got some old time feel to it in there. So that was a fun game in there too.
Absolutely. So we mentioned how you've been almost above 6'3" since your freshman year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's obviously tall. So you obviously assume the center position. So I find this very fascinating about your story. Who gave you the most trouble in high school? Because as you continue to grow, you continue to just tower over people. But was there anybody in particular that you can think of that just said every time you saw them, you just start grinding your teeth and you're just like, oh, I hate playing against them?
Yeah, I can't think of like one specific person, but it's always like there's one type of person, and we always seem to run into them more in high school basketball than college. Like just the bulky center that's like maybe like a football lineman or something like that, and he's just out there just to be physical and just foul you. I mean, I was always game for it. I'm always down, but yeah, definitely if I look down there and see one of those guys on the other team, I'm just like, man, it's gonna be one of these nights. So yeah, that like build of a person always was probably my kryptonite or arch nemesis.
Now you can correct me if I am wrong, but are you a trash talker? Am I connecting the dots correctly? Are you a trash talker?
Yeah, you can. One would say.
That's funny. So what is okay? So let's go from this. Let's go from this angle. Then. This is just a little fun question. So when you go up against somebody and they're trying to like talk back to you or whatever, what's your immediate go-to line to just go right back at them? Give them a little quick jab, a little Conor McGregor quick
Yeah.
jab.
Yeah. I mean, most of the time, I'll like try to get a bucket and then I'll start talking to him like, hey man, like you're gonna need to sub this guy out, or like, yo, hey coach, like you can't check me. Yeah, it's just something like that. But yeah, normally once I get going, I don't know. It's almost like I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. So
Spur of the moment kind of thing.
yeah, it just comes to me. But definitely after I give him a bucket, I'm like, hey coach, gotta get this guy out.
I like it. I like it. So I mentioned how we're going to talk about VMI. Let's talk about VMI. So in high school, outside of VMI, who were some teams that were in the mix that were one pursuing you, but also you were showing interest in them?
Yeah, it was an interesting recruiting process. Anybody that's been through it knows it's difficult and tough to manage at times. But for me, me and my family decided that we thought it'd be best to make the decision of where I was going to school before my senior year of high school. So probably could have waited till after and had a good run at this state tournament. Maybe some things would have fallen some different ways. But I came on a visit down here, saw it was the right fit and committed. But other than VMI, I mean, I had a couple Division II schools talking to me. And the only other one I was like really interested in was Shepherd with my brother, where he goes, just to continue playing with him and stuff. That would have been fun. Plus, it's only 30, 40 minutes from home. But yeah, once I came down to the visit, just met with the guys, and yeah, I just knew it was the right fit for me. So it wasn't too much of a debate.
So what about VMI attracted you?
Just how there's a set schedule for every single day. Very rigid. Obviously, as a freshman, you go through what we call the rat line. It's kind of like an initiation type thing, and you just learn. You find yourself. You're thinking, man, is it really worth this to play college basketball? And I looked in the mirror and I was like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to play college basketball. So you just find a different part of yourself when you're going through, the struggles and the trials and tribulations that are come with VMI. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun place, and having everybody here have that similar mindset of, hey, let's work hard, let's get better together. And that's kind of what attracted me.
What were the coach's main pitches to you to come to VMI?
I mean, the main pitch for any center to come to VMI is we run essentially the Princeton style offense. Big's going to get the ball at the elbow a lot. But then on top of that, Coach Earl told me, man, like, we think if you can come in and you work hard and, change your body and put on some muscle, we think you can be a good player. And so Coach Earl was a big part of my decision to come here. I think at the end of the day that he knew what was best for me, and I believed in him enough that it worked out well. So
You started in half the games your freshman year. Did that sort of help you continue to just work harder, sort of like a morale booster kind of thing? Did that help you move down the line going into your sophomore and junior year? Walk me through that.
yeah, so I mean, my freshman year it was it's always kind of unexpected. Like, hey, we have these freshmen, what can they do? And you have to prove yourself. So I had some good practices leading up to the season. But once the games start, it's a whole new level, a whole new thing you got to figure out. So it took some time. Eventually, it got to the point where Coach Earl trusted me enough to throw me in the starting lineup. And, I kind of knew my role at that point was to, not to take too many shots, not to take crazy shots, but to take open ones, to take consistent, good shots. And it ended up sticking. So I was fortunate for that.
Now I'm looking through this. I'm looking through some of the games that you guys played against, whether it be on the road or at home. And I see that you guys played Wofford. Now, for people that know about Wofford, Wofford had a TBT team called Woco Showtime.
Yep.
And
Yep.
one of the guys that was on that team was Fletcher McGee. Now,
Hmm.
Jake had the opportunity of playing against Fletcher in college. What, just sort of from a bird's eye view, from a guy that played against him on the court, you know, what makes Fletcher McGee so lethal?
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I saw West Virginia play them the first round, and I was like, "Ooh, that's gonna be a tough game." Because if you know, Nathan Hoover was their other player, and
Yeah.
he's a good player as well. He was, I think he graduated. I don't know. He was there for a couple years after Fletcher had left. So, but I mean, either way, they're both great shooters. But yeah, Fletcher, I mean, just an unreal like catch from the time he catches the ball to releases it. It's just so quick. I mean, he could be facing one direction, the basket's over here on his left, and he is in the air, catches, turns, and shoots the ball all in the same motion. It's just something that's really just uncanny. I mean, closing out and figuring out how to guard the guy is definitely difficult. But we did our best, and you're never gonna hold a guy like that to zero, but we did a pretty good job on him, and I like to think we didn't win any of those games against him, but it's helped us further down the road with how to play these dead eye green shooters that you see all the time now.
Mm-hmm. So I mentioned early on you had a career season last year. I mean, obviously double figures in scoring. You've increased your point average from the time you were a freshman to last season, but last year was different just because of COVID. Let's talk about that. I know COVID's still out there, the Delta variant, other variants are still lingering out there as well. But walk me back to last season, going through games where you didn't know whether or not you were going to play that next game. Was that difficult for you, or was that just something where, okay, we just got to focus on that next game?
No, it was definitely difficult. Here at VMI, I think we by Thanksgiving break they had sent the students home and had told them you're not coming back till after January. So we got everybody sent home. Our first game was coming up. So we kind of understood that, hey, if we get through the first couple of weeks of testing here, get things on the road, like rolling, we're going to have, all the students home. We can just kind of isolate to ourselves. And I think we'll have a good shot of the season starting. So once we were able to kind of pass those first couple hurdles, the first couple tests and rounds of tests and stuff like that, we knew that we were going to be pretty good as long as we were following the team rules that we had to not leave, to not be quarantinable. But it was tough. It was a big sacrifice on everybody's part. There were times when, I'm staying in a hotel alone because somebody's quarantined, or they're staying, by themselves for 2 weeks because they got sick. It was challenging. And then towards the end of the year, our students kind of started rolling back in. Unfortunately, there wasn't much we could do. We ended up missing a few games there at the end of the year, but we're lucky enough to play in the tournament last year. But yeah, it was a difficult year because you just never knew when that positive test was to come in.
Going through a season, I assume that the messages that your coaches tell you guys is even more important, more vital to listen to than more than ever, it seemed like. What were some things that your coaches were telling you outside of, making sure you have a safe distance away from people? Were there any other messages that they were telling you that just really stuck out to you?
I mean, Coach Earl kind of harped on the don't be quarantinable aspect of things, meaning, have your mask on, 6 feet of distance. If it's more than 15 minutes, all this stuff just kind of added up. But I mean, basically it boiled down to the common practices: washing your hands, wearing your mask, all this good stuff. So I think, now we're here. We have the season's coming back upon us, and we have more variants out there, and we might end up having to do the same thing where we're safe and stay spread from as many people as we can this year. So anything for a season, though.
Is that frustrating though? I mean, you thought that you would be out of it during the summer. It seemed like things were kind of getting back to normal, but then once school got back in the
Right.
session, it started picking up again. Is that frustrating for you?
Yeah, it's a little frustrating. Last year, I forget, maybe halfway through our home regular season games, they said, all right, no more fans at the games. And that's just kind of a blow because you get so much energy from the fans, even if it's just, I think we had 250 there in the beginning. Even if it's just that many, you just get so much energy from them. But like I said, I mean, if we have to go no fans again, it's a sacrifice I think me and the rest of the team here are willing to make to have a season. But I hope it's not that. So we'll keep doing our part, staying away from everybody, washing our hands, and practicing all the safe hygiene stuff.
You're a senior this year. Again, you've increased numbers since your freshman year, but player development for you. What's the biggest thing that you've been working on that you've been really just trying to hone in on and just make sure that you have that in your arsenal? That way, come game time, it'll be at a peak.
Right. So my freshman year was kind of known as just a big guy that was just going to pick and pop and shoot the ball. So, and that was just kind of how I found my time on the floor. I wasn't going to get thrown the ball in the low post and be required to go one-on-one. Couldn't have done it too much at the time anyway. I wasn't ready for that at the college level. So I think each year I've just focused on getting more confidence on the low block, in the one-on-one post-up situations. And then the three-point shot kind of tailed off a little bit last year. Didn't shoot it as well as I would have liked. So that's been a focus this season. So, every offseason there's something to work on. But yeah, we just keep on improving, and just find something every offseason to improve on, because there's always something.
You shot 32% last year from three. Now my question to you is this. So you shot 35% your freshman season, 33% your sophomore season, then 32% last year. Yeah, 32% last year.
Yeah.
How do you go about improving that and just getting to the point where you feel comfortable enough that you don't really have to worry about that number, but instead you're just going out there, just being fluent with the basketball? How does that sort of correspond with one another?
Right. So somewhere, I think after my freshman year, we moved the 3-point line back. So that was another difference that we had. Moved it back to like the international distance. So it was an adjustment there. So I have no doubt that didn't help. But as far as getting better and like working on things, it's just reps. I mean, reps and reps and reps. Every day we have the shooting machine here, the gun, I think it's called, and just anywhere from 500 to 1,000 shots a day on that. Anytime the coaches are with me, we're doing pick and pop shooting or on the move shooting. So I mean, just reps. There's not a special secret I have for you. It's just the more you sweat, the better you get. So that's all there is.
I'm crunching these numbers right now, and I'm taking your last year's numbers for your assist to turnover ratio, because you had 85 assists total last year and 61 turnovers. So if you were to divide 65 by 61, that's right around 1.4 for an assist to turnover ratio. And you've already dished out 186 assists as well. How important is it as a big man, not only to be that pick and pop guy, as you mentioned, that presence down low as well, but also, you have the height, you have the vision as well, because you mentioned Nikola Jokic earlier. How important is it to just mix in the distributing the basketball asset to your game?
No, it's huge. And I mean, here it's like almost like the center's the point guards, kind of the offense we run. A lot of times we'll come down the floor, call a set, and then it's up to me to kind of break it off, or if someone's open, to play like that. So, I mean, it's huge. And you said about 1.4 or whatever assist turnover ratio, trying to improve that, trying to get to 1.5 or 2. So there's always improvement to be made. Seeing, the next guy, trying to figure out not only what your man's going to do, but the guy that's cutting or the guy that's helping. There's a lot that goes into it, but yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's the name of the game.
You mentioned how with the style of offense that VMI runs, it's almost like the big man runs that point guard position. Now, do you sort of get tidbits from the point guards? They're just like, hey, if you get the ball, do this, and it'll help you. And then you sort of do the same thing with them. Like if you get the ball down low in the mid to low post, you can use this move to be more effective. Do you guys sort of feed off of each other?
Yeah. Last year, uh, our point guard, his name was Alden Parham. He's at South Alabama now, grad transfer. I mean, me and him were just real close on and off the court. And we would talk all the time, butt heads, obviously, but definitely, I mean, he sees something, he comes tell me. I see something, I go to him. This year, we have a freshman who was on the all freshman team last year, Trey Bonham. He's really good to if he sees something, he'll tell me, and we kind of have that same relationship going that me and AP had. Um, so yeah, it's good. And as far as like on the floor, it's a read and react offense. So if I set a screen and roll, the next person knows to fill up. If I set a screen and pop, the next person knows to cut. So we just play off each other, and everybody knows that, hey, if you see something that's working or something that you want to tell the team, and let it out.
So I forgot to mention this aspect of VMI before we started beginning it, but it's fine. It's a podcast. Who cares? Anyway, so as you may or may not know, a famous prep player from West Virginia literally had the all-time scoring record at VMI for 22 years. Gay Elmore played at South Charleston, went on to play at VMI. Did you know about him before coming to VMI?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, growing up, me and my brothers, I think we went to pretty much every state tournament. So we obviously knew John Elmore and Odd Elmore and all those guys. Had watched them growing up from when they were at South Charleston or GW. So we knew of that Elmore name. And then when I came down here, I wasn't really sure of his story. I didn't know about it, but his jersey's hanging in the rafters. He's in the Hall of Fame here. So yeah, it's just something. You see every day. You're like, hey, Elmore's. There's a piece of West Virginia in this building. So yeah.
So let's take it from that aspect, and then we'll conclude our VMI topic. So you mentioned you see Gay's jersey, you get that West Virginia feeling as well. You're not playing in the state anymore. You're playing down in Virginia. What's it like still representing the state of West Virginia, not only on your not on your jersey, but also just close to your heart? How neat is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've grown up in West Virginia, lived there my whole life, never really moved anywhere else or anything like that. So I mean, it's West Virginia is my home, and a lot of people, even in Virginia here, don't understand. They're like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "West Virginia," and they're like, "No, like, what part of West Virginia?" And I'm like, "Oh, I mean, it's a state. Like, it's if you're from West Virginia, you're welcome everywhere." So it's cool. It's really cool. Anytime I meet somebody and they're like, "Hey, I'm from West Virginia," I'm like, "Hey, like, it's awesome." Immediately become friends. So it's cool representing. I'd like to think I do my part in representing well, but we'll see.
So a couple more. So heading into next season, we've already mentioned how from a player developmental side, you want to work on some different things, continuing to learn the playbook for you. But accomplishments outside of winning, whether it be a conference championship game, making the NCAA tournament, personally, what do you want to accomplish this season?
I mean, like you said, winning, the team aspect, we want to win the Southern Conference Championship. We were in good position to do it last year and ran into a Mercer team that just simply played better than us in the Southern Conference semifinal. I think as a freshman, I listed out some goals, and one of them was to beat every team in the Southern Conference at least once. We still have to beat ETSU, so that's the goal, beat them. And then, I mean, I'm a humble guy, so I don't want to say Player of the Year, but obviously that would be a nice award to add to the collection. But as far as myself, I want to be a 50, 40, 90 guy, 50 from the field, 40 from three, and then 90 from the free throw line. And that's something we're working towards every single day. That's kind of my goal. So those two big ones. Yeah.
How do you go about trying to reach that 50, 40, 90? That's a very hard task to meet. But again, your numbers incredibly increase over the last 3 seasons. How do you go about doing that just from a preparation standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, just taking smart shots is the biggest thing. Last year I would find myself shooting sometimes, and I'm like, yeah, I probably could have made one more pass there. So shooting smart shots, just being selective with the shots we're shooting. And then getting to the free throw line is going to be a big one because, last year I think I shot 82%. So, and as a team, we're very effective from the free throw line. So getting fouled is good. And then obviously, like I said, just shot selection is going to be key.
Couple more. Okay. So from a team aspect, how is this group that's coming in, meaning the recruiting class that VMI is bringing in, how have you sort of been able to just coach them, just sort of show them the ropes, that kind of thing, just show them, hey, this is how we do it here. I know it's different. I was once in your shoes, that kind of thing. How have you sort of developed into that role?
Right. It's at VMI. I alluded to it earlier. We have the rat line the freshmen have to go through, which is a different experience for everybody. But as a freshman, you're kind of appointed a senior who's kind of like your mentor. So the basketball team has 2 seniors. We have 4 freshmen, so we each just split it up. We each have 2 freshmen we're kind of looking after and help with like day-to-day life of VMI, but also outside of that, like basketball and even life things. So that's been nice getting to know the freshmen on a different level. But for the most part, it's just setting an example, like I said earlier. Trying to show them that, hey, if you want to be successful, you got to get in the gym. You have to do stuff that people aren't willing to do, and it's as simple as that. So.
And then lastly, I didn't see this on your bio on VMI's website, but 1, what are you majoring in? And 2, what do you want to do post basketball?
Yeah, I'm majoring. I'm a computer science major. So there's, hopefully going to be jobs available for me somewhere. I'm not sure, but post basketball, I mean, I'm going to try to play as long as I can. Hopefully, make it a living. That would be the dream. But post basketball, I'm not sure. Really. I like, the media field, like this kind of stuff always interested me. I like coaching. So I'm not sure. What the future holds.
If an overseas option were available, would you hop on that?
Yeah. Like I said, my goal was to make a living playing basketball. Now, if it was, I don't know. Yeah, I would probably hop on pretty much any offer I could. So
I got you. Well, my man, I'm gonna get you out of here. I appreciate your time. It was a wonderful conversation with you. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, the last time I saw you was during that Parkersburg South game. And as I'm sitting up in the upper deck with my teammates, because we just beat West Side. I looked at one of my friends and I said, "He's tall." That's all I said. He's tall.
Yeah.
So it's good to finally meet you, 1, but 2, I've also been keeping up with what you've been doing over at VMI. So good luck this season, and we will definitely be keeping up soon. And best of luck for you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, absolutely. That will conclude episode 64 of Hoops Across the Mountain State with our terrific guest, Jake Stevens from Musselman, now at VMI as well. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7. Again, subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. I kind of forgot it right there, but I appreciate everybody yet again. I'm gonna try and expand more. I know it's difficult, but as the season comes along, there's some names out there that I really want to get on the podcast. They're down in the Greenbrier East area, down in the Mingo Central area, just places like that, places that don't really get coverage much, like what Jake said with Musselman. So this is good that Jake was able to join us today. Because again, his story is very fascinating. 1, just because he's a terrific basketball player, but 2, I'll tell you what, I'm not lying. He's literally 6'11". So just whenever you guys get a chance, follow along with Jake whenever VMI takes to court here as basketball season starts to get rolling. And as always, just follow along with him. I encourage you to do that for every high school basketball player or college basketball player that I've talked to on this podcast. It's really neat as well, just because you talk to them on the podcast and you see what they're doing, and you're just like, wow, that's really unique to see what they're doing. They're continuing to do what they love. As Jake said, he wants to continue to do this for as long as possible. Hopefully make a living out of this. So we wish nothing but the best for Jake as well. Again, I want to announce that myself and this podcast, Hoops Across the Mountain State, has partnered up, or if you want to call it a collaboration, we are collaborating with Jeff Schneider and Big Shot. So over the next few months, you'll see some content associated with this podcast and Big Shots as well. And again, I'm very, very excited for this opportunity just to partner with them, just to see what they got opportunity-wise. Just a great, great individual. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, please go back and listen to that. I encourage you to do so. He's a terrific guy. Played at Washington Irving, eventually won to play at Virginia Tech as well, and coached as well. Had the second best turnaround in NCAA history in his first season at Cal Poly. So that's very rare to do. And again, I really do appreciate everybody over these last few episodes. It's definitely been rough just with school starting back up, but now that school is back in session, I sort of have a schedule of what I'm going to do. And hopefully these next few episodes will be very enjoyable for you all. And also, basketball season is right around the corner. I know football season's still among us, but it's also important just to recognize other sports as well. So just another quick announcement as well. When basketball season does come around, I will be bringing back CJ Harvey for all of the preview episodes. You thought last year's preview episodes were a lot. Believe me, this year it's about to take on a whole new dynamic for content, I think. That's just my personal opinion. But again, I'm very excited. CJ's a great mentor. CJ's been a great help as well. So I appreciate everything that he's done for me. And also go check out Mountaineer Media as well. They have a great podcast. They've talked to a plethora of people. They just recently talked to Tony Caridi, my boss, but they've also talked to Mike Hamrick, the Marshall AD, talked to Joe Manchin, Natalie Tennant, friend of the program, Landau Eugene Murphy Jr., just a bunch of West Virginia icons as well. So I encourage you to go listen to them and just give them a rating. Always give West Virginia people a rating. As always, we want to continue to push the state of West Virginia out there for people to not only understand who we are, but also who we've put out there and how those people got there, i.e. Jake Stevens. So it's just all a big piece of this puzzle that we call life and working here together in the state of West Virginia. So without further ado, that will conclude episode 64 of Hoops Across the Mountain State. As always, thank you all for listening, and I will catch you all next time for 65, which we will have a double guest interview. Stay tuned.